All right, everybody, welcome back. Monday morning here. It's our normal day for the panhead build we're doing, but today we're going to do something a little bit different that I've been putting off for quite a while. We've been using our mill more and more, and we got a couple big jobs coming up for it. So I'm going to go ahead and get the power feed table installed on the mill. It's one of these cheap eBay power feeds. So my mill is a Pearson. I believe it's Italian made. I've had it for, gosh, probably 15 years. I paid $300 for it. It was beat up. It's still pretty beat up, but we've slowly made improvements to it. It does the kind of work we want to do, generally speaking. We don't do anything super precise. Last couple of months, though, we've really got it dialed in better. We got the headlock bolts were, one of them was broken, one of them was stripped, so we went ahead and made new ones of those and pulled the head off and got that all situated so it'll actually keep the head stiff now. And once we did that, we've been able to use it to do a lot more stuff. I've added a bunch of different tooling, rotary table, and things like that over the last year or two. So anyway, this power feed's been sitting in the box. It's for a Bridgeport type mill, so it's not going to be a direct fit. And apparently these cheapies aren't necessarily a direct fit even for the machines they're made for. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, I'm guessing. We'll have to just kind of work our way through it is basically the plan. I don't know exactly what it's going to take to get it fit. So we are going to jump out there, get the parts out, and just work our way through getting this thing hopefully running our mill today with a power feed table, because my arms are tired of cranking the table back and forth. Plus, you just can't get as nice of a finish like with a fly cutter as you can when you can click the power feed on and dial in a nice uniform pass over the part. So thanks for being here. Hope you guys enjoy something a little bit different. And if you guys are new here, maybe because you found this because you're more of a machinist than a motorcycle guy, welcome, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, so this is the right-hand side of our mill if you're facing the table. This is how I got it. I'm assuming at some point it had a power feed that either broke or somebody took off, or it had a handle. I'm not sure what the original setup was, but this is how I got it. So this stuff's just been loose on here. I'm going to slide this off, put that aside for now, and then see about taking these bolts out, if this will loosen this plate up, see what it gives us. Alright, so that appears to be our end bearing there and this plate, so I think that's as much as we want to take off for now. Our power feed came with this plate, which would normally slide on and bolt onto the edge of end of a Bridgeport. It's kind of got that bolt pattern there, but at this moment it's not going to work for us. So I have a couple options that may work, but I'm thinking we might just look at mounting this directly to this plate we just took off. So here's our bearing in here. It comes with this collar, which the bearing rides on, which actually fits on our shaft. Only problem being there is that it's not really long enough, so we're going to need to make an inner spacer to hold that. But that would go right on there, and we'd have that shaft if we bolt this housing to here, which is definitely doable. Alright, so I'm liking that. So If we put this plate back on and then slide this on here with our spacer, we can transfer punch this plate, take it out, go over to the drill press, drill 3 mounting holes, and then bolt this motor to this plate, bolt the plate back on, bolt the motor on, and we're halfway there because we got our drive unit mounted. So I'm liking that plan. Once we get the drive unit mounted, then obviously we can look at the bevel gear here, which I have noticed does have the wrong size center hole in it, but I'm hoping that we have enough meat to just bore it out. Let's see here. It's 977 and that's 785. So we're gonna have plenty enough meat to bore this out to slide over this. And then we just have to figure out our keyway situation. This has a keyway in it that's much larger than this keyway, but possibly I can just drill and tap this and set screw instead of a keyway, and that'll let us set our end play on this at the same time. So we'll play with that once we get the drive motor mounted, but for now I'm going to bolt this plate we just took back off, or that we just took off, back on. Hopefully this material is not too hard. I'm assuming it's going to be a cast iron ring here, which should drill nicely. Alright, we got our spacer there. We will have to make that longer so that it doesn't fall inside, but for right now we're just going to use it right in place here to hold this how we want. And I'm going to grab a transfer punch. The transfer punch I wanted to use has a screwed up tip, so we're just going to quick recut the tip on the lathe here. So there we go, nice sharp tip. Alright, so what I'm going to do is pick the first hole. I'm going to punch it, I'm going to drill it, I'm going to tap it, then I can bolt it into place so it doesn't move around while I do the other holes. See what we got here for bolts. Looks like some 6mm. So I will double check that and we'll grab our drill and go drill this hole once we take this plate off. This is cast iron plate, by the way, and it drills beautifully and taps beautifully. So, hard to complain about that. Check the fit of our bolt. Perfect. So, go ahead and put our plate back on again. All right. Now we got that locked on nice and tight, we'll go ahead and transfer punch. All right, we got our 2 more marks. We'll go drill these, come back and tap them. All right, so we got our 2 holes drilled. I'm gonna go ahead and tap, and then we'll be able to install this plate back for what I hope will be the final time. All right, so we got our plate. I'm gonna put that back on one last time, hopefully. Okay, we're gonna slide our motor in. But we don't want this spacer, there we go. We want the spacer so we can pull it out so we can measure for the length of the final one we're gonna need. They seem to have shorted us a bolt. So, that's alright. I can get one. Not a big deal. We're good on there for now. Now that we've got this mounted in the position we want, I slid our collar out because we know it's too short. And we're going to take a depth measurement here. Let's see what size this is outside. Just under 1 inch. Inside 785. So it's about 20 millimeter, and the outside is 24 millimeter, being that it's a metric thing. So, and I'm gonna re-zero my vernier because I think we were off there, and we need a 2-inch long. So I'm gonna grab some 1-inch material. That'll be the closest I have to the 20 millimeter. Well, unless I have some 7/8. No, 7/8 would be too small. So it's 24 outside. So I'm gonna grab some 1-inch material, cut off a piece, and we'll come back to the lathe and start machining our spacer. All right, so I had a piece of 1-inch tubing, 120 walls, so that's going to save us a bunch of time drilling. Just going to have to cut the outside diameter of this and then ream the inside, so it'll save us a lot of trouble. Then once we do that, we can just part it off to our length and install it in the machine. fits perfect. You can't complain about that one bit. Drops right in, pokes out just a little bit, stops on the shoulder. Exactly what we wanted. So, our next problem is getting this to fit. So, we're going to go ahead and ream this. I like how this shaft fit on the sides. We got our 20mm reamer. I'm going to go ahead and ream this. Well, first I'm going to have to drill it, I think, because I don't want to step all the way to 20mm. Yeah. So we're going to drill it out to like 3/4 inch, then we'll ream it to 20mm. All right, so we got our brass gear drilled and reamed to 20mm to fit over our 20mm shaft here. Spins nicely. And then it comes with a bunch of shims if you need to shim the brass gear for engagement. So the directions are pretty pitiful. It just seems to indicate that you put it on there and kind of feel for engagement and then lock it in. So I think we nailed it pretty close with our spacer we made, our inner spacer we already made. If anything, it could probably take a touch off of the spacer, but I'd really rather not have a bunch of shim stacked in there, so I think I'm going to try it like that and see what we can come up with. The only other thing from there we got to figure out is we lost our keyway, which is okay. I think we're going to just drill and tap this for a couple set screws. Or even better, I might just drill it for a roll pin. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drill it for a roll pin because that'll keep it in and out and side to side at the same time, because the factory type Bridgeport setup has a handle that bolts on the end here. This does not. So we're kind of left with nothing to hold this on longitudinally. Also, the cover, the dial wheel from the Bridgeport would have fit over this, which is not going to fit. So I don't know, maybe we'll machine up a little aluminum cover. Alright, so went ahead and drilled 5/32 hole. I drilled it straight through, not because I need to really put that long of a roll pin in it, but that way if we need to take this apart, we can knock the roll pin out easy enough without trying to extract it, which sucks. Alright, so I think we do need to cut a little off of this, even though it looks like it fits in there by hand. It's not tight enough for the power feed. So shorten that up a little bit. Alright, now that we know that's going to work, I'm going to grease up our bronze gears here. Alright, cleanup time so we can finish up this thing, but get all our mess out of the way first. Alright, one more thing we got to do is put the stop on. So, get this table lock handle out of the way for a second so you can kind of see what we're doing here. So, luckily there was already some holes drilled here, and it comes with these spring-loaded stops, which I don't know how we're going to load those in here. Maybe we'll see if we can slip that in if we take this apart. Otherwise I'm going to have to take the whole end cap off, which sucks. We don't want to do that. Will that slide in there and then tip up? Yes, I believe it will. Nice. But it looks like we're going to need some slightly longer screws than this, so we'll add those to our screw list. Is this the holes? Yep, we got 1/4 inch 20 bolt holes here, so we'll use that to bolt the stop on. Let's see if this is going to reach. Yep. We have that down here. I'm going to have to bend this tab ever so slightly once we get this bolted on. And these slots need to be opened up just a little bit because, of course, our bolt spacing on the bracket is not exactly the bolt spacing on our mill. That was already there. It's about 1/8 of an inch off. So we got our carbide burr here. We'll just open these slots up ever so slightly wider, and that'll get us what we need. don't know what size this is. It seems to be some really, it's like maybe 7 millimeter. It's not 5/16. It's not, it's like 1/4 inch goes in, but it won't tighten. It just spins when it gets to the bottom. So, and 5/16 is a little too tight. I'm going to just run a 5/16 tap in here. All the table stop screws and stuff I made because they were all busted up and they were all standard thread, so it's weird. Maybe it's 5/16 with a bunch of track. Alright guys, well, we got our power feed mounted. Still got to come up with something for a cover, but I'll work that out hopefully for next week. Also got some wiring work to do on this thing for next week, so looks like we'll be doing some tool Mondays for the next few weeks. Also, if anybody knows anything about this lathe, it's a Pearson, I believe it's a Model H V-mill. There's very, very little information about it. I've never really been able to find anything on it. So if anybody knows anything about them, please let me know. Send me an email. I'd love to have a user manual or service manual for them. It's a cool machine. It's kind of a mid-sized mill, I would say. A little on the smaller side compared to most of the Bridgeports I've seen, but it served me pretty well. Like I said, I paid $300 for this thing about 15 years ago. And I've made plenty of parts with it, and I'm just trying to improve on it as we go. Have a nicer piece of equipment. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today. See, I got black all over my face. Really happy with the progress for today. We got the power feed working, functioning. I do got to pick up a couple pieces of hardware, but this is something I've been putting off for far too long, and it really went a lot smoother than I thought. So that's got me pumped up to get everything else situated on this machine. Pretty sure I'm going to buy a DRO for it. I've been looking into some of the more inexpensive DROs. They seem pretty quality. If anybody has one they've used that they like, let me know about those so I can look into them and try and decide what I need to get. Plan on probably getting a 3-axis DRO. May as well while I'm doing it. I don't see any reason to skimp on the Z-axis unless somebody has some opinions on that. Maybe why it's more trouble than it's worth. So if you have any kind of info about that, please let me know. I also got a nice new forward and reverse switch that we're going to install next week, as well as making up a cover for the power feed bronze bushing, and I'm going to figure out some kind of hand wheel for this side too. Either I'm going to make one, or McMaster car a lot of times has good hand wheel options, stuff like that. So I'm going to see what I can find for a hand wheel. It's been 15 years with no hand wheel on this side, but since I'm going all this trouble of getting this thing cleaned up and working right, may as well put a hand wheel on there too and just have a really nice finished off machine that one day I'll probably sell and upgrade to a bigger actual Bridgeport pattern machine. I'd like to get one with a variable speed head. and such. But for now, this is what I have, and so we're going to try and make it work as best it can. One more quick note about anybody who might know about the Pearsons. My quill power feed does not work correctly. So again, if anybody has any service manuals or information on these things, that's something I would really like to be able to get to work. So I had a power feed for boring and stuff like that. So any information that's out there or any links or stuff you guys could share with me, please do that, because I'm really wanting to get this mill back into top quality condition, or at least as far as I can without doing like a crazy restoration. So anyway, if it was your first time here because you found us through the milling video, welcome, and I hope you guys come back. And to the rest of you guys, as always, appreciate you being here, and we hope to see you next time at Gatti's Garage.